happy with what you got because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. Politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest.
I'll work that out later. All right, fellas. Let's get started. All right, well, it looks like we got a new president. It was reported yesterday, Joe Biden winning Pennsylvania. He is now the projected 46th president of the United States. Kamala Harris is now considered the first Black, Asian, American female VP. So that's historic. The current President Trump, he is filing several lawsuits in these battleground states to get it contested. So thoughts? Anyone?
Trump is a sore loser.
All right. Next up.
That's my immediate one.
Okay.
It's a terrible loser.
Yo, he's a sore loser. Ain't talking about you're not going to concede. Like, bro, you're not even taking your whipping graciously.
Yeah, well, he don't like to lose. Listen, at the end of the day, it was set up. He planted that seed a long time ago that it was going to be unfair, that he was going to fight it. He was not going to concede. So everything that he said he was going to do, he's just doing. That's all.
I agree, Smith. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
The government have things in place to move his ass out when it's time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, to be all honest, he's one of those dudes that talk a good game, but he's gonna leave. He's not going to necessarily, once the inauguration comes about, that dude is going to leave. But like Black Zeus?
I don't know. I don't feel any different about it. To me, when it comes to this whole government and politics and everything, left wing, right wing, fucked up ass bird.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more the same. It's like, I know y'all didn't like the last white guy in charge. Well, we got a new white guy in charge. It's different now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Like I'm with you, man. Like I've always said, people get so wrapped up on the presidential race that they don't even pay attention to the local races and the local financial budgeting that's happening. Like for me, the presidency, it is what it is. What I'm concerned about is Montclair raising their taxes in 2 years because businesses hasn't necessarily been functioning, and
Is that on your ballot?
Nah, but it's just, how, bro, like I expect all property taxes to make up for the shortfalls of New Jersey, that New Jersey is seeing right now, man. So, you got that sort of situation. And like I said, like Shu said, man, and I think you said this too in the past, Smith, is just the presidency is presidency. Like it doesn't have an immediate impact on my day to day. So I guess focus on what you can focus on, and that's that. That's how I look at it.
Hey, I got a question for you, right quick though.
What's up?
If they passed the ballot to make weed legal in New Jersey.
Oh, I was about to get into the next news segment with that.
My fault. Well, I'm going right into it then.
Yeah, you going right into it.
Well, no, because you're talking about your property taxes going up, but they're going to be taxing this weed at a high rate, and they're going to be bringing in a lot of money. That doesn't equate for the lack of the property taxes. That doesn't make up the difference for that downfall, that they're about to amass billions of money from nowhere.
Bruh, if you ever look down as to like the breakdown of what your property taxes is allocated towards, 55, well, I could say for Montclair, 55% of it is based on the Board of Education, like school budgeting.
School budget.
That's 55% off the rip is dedicated to that.
So, did your taxes go
up? It hasn't gone up the year before. It gone up slightly higher this year, but I just could only assume with businesses, because what make my property taxes relatively low is the fact that Montclair has a thriving downtown business district, and the fact that a lot of them haven't been functioning. I just could only assume that the 2021-2022 budget is going to look real bleak for them, and the only way to make up for that deficit is by raising the taxes.
Well, look at your what's the name? Because mine went up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it went up. Yeah. All right, we can go on
Yeah. All right, man. And Smith didn't got all jumping the gun and trying to steal my thunder. All right. So, as you guys will know, New Jersey has legalized weed. Now, what's next? So before people can begin purchasing and using marijuana, state lawmakers must still pass a bill that would detail the rules and regulations surrounding the legal weed industry. Dispensaries must go through a rigorous licensing process. New growers will have to come to add to the state's supply. Already there are disputes about its details. According to two sources with knowledge of the negotiations, they are discussing an excise tax on growers, limiting the number of licenses issued. Adding more detail on social justice and diversity goals would be met, allowing municipalities to decide how the 2% tax rate ought to be spent, defining how wholesaler cannabis growers should play in the market. They already decided that the age limit will be 21. You must be 21. And there will be a cannabis regulatory commission board that will oversee the rules and regulations.
So how do they track what weed comes from where? How do you know it doesn't come from the weed man?
What you say?
How do they know what weed comes from where? Like they putting all these taxes. How are they going to regulate if the weed is coming from the dispensary or if they still getting it from the street?
You mean like if somebody were to get
pulled? They're not going to regulate that. The street hustle is still going to be the street hustle. Yeah. So a lot of people think that the street hustle goes away. It doesn't go away because people won't be going to the dispensaries. They're not going to just open up a dispensary at your local bodega. So it's not going to be as convenient. They have one that's in Union. They have another one off 22 that you can go to, and that one is medicinal right now. Mm-hmm. So what they're going to do is the people that are medicinal, they have to make sure that they have enough product for the medicinal patients as well as for the recreational patients.
Now, is it legal for the weed man to sell weed now?
No, it will not be. It's kind of like selling Lucy's on the street, Henry. You can't sell Lucy's even though people sell Lucy's. So people will still buy off the street. If you get caught, the penalty will be little to none. But you're distributing. You're not manufacturing, but you're distributing. You can have the weed on you. You can have the weed and then nothing happens to you. But you can't, if you're caught selling the weed, it's still going to be, it's kind of like selling hooch, nigga. It's like selling hooch.
And then some other question is just, okay, so now what's the legal amount that you're allowed to carry with you? Because if it's alcohol, you could bring as much as you. Oh, okay.
They're still detailing that sort of. They're outlining those specifics.
The outline that they have is you're supposed to be able to have at least 2 ounces on your person without.
And it's going to be like alcohol where you can't just walk down the street smoking it because you can't walk down the street drinking an open container.
I doubt that. Nah, I think you could probably walk down the street and smoke it.
Yeah, it depends on where you can't be in your car smoking and driving.
Yeah, exactly.
In that case, it's like the alcohol.
Yeah,
you can't be operating machinery and shit while you're smoking weed.
But you can't walk down the street with an open container.
But you could walk down the street smoking a cigarette.
Yeah,
and they're gonna treat it just like that.
But you also got to be 20. But you also got to be 21 to buy a cigarette.
And guess what?
You're gonna be 21 to buy marijuana.
You don't have to be. You don't have to be 21 to buy a cigarette.
No, but you have to be 21 to buy alcohol.
That's what I'm saying. So why wouldn't the rules be the same?
I don't know, man. This is going to be
the
bureaucracy.
The walking down the street might be doing it in public, like public intoxication. But guess what? Everybody that walks down the street with an open container aren't getting it. They're not getting a ticket for that shit, bro. It's illegal, but you can do it. You know what I mean? It just depends on where you're doing that shit at. Like, it's, the world still goes on, man. Every rule is not followed. So it is what it is. And a great late Nate Dogg said, hey, smoke weed every day.
Yeah, I just think the only thing that's going to change is people just going to do it more out in the open. I don't think it's going to lead to any more people smoking and any less people smoking. I think you're going to see it out more public more. So maybe it will lead
to a lot of people not looking like us making a lot of money.
Man,
we have to figure out how we get our hands on the fucking money. How do we get a license? How do we get in on that? That's what needs to happen.
Smith, you better stop stealing my goddamn thunder on this goddamn podcast.
This is how my brain works, man.
Black Zeus, you got anything to say on this?
Honestly, I think y'all jumping the gun on all of these questions because they said it's legalized, meaning the fact of we're gonna make it legal so we can figure a way to make money off of it, tax it. Honestly, it's gonna take a little while before they figure out all those minor details, whether you could smoke it on the street or not, or whether you could, whatever the case may be. But here's what I will say, knowing that. Well, I'm gonna try not to jump the gun on T's next question, but all I'm gonna say is that the people who smoke it the most should start preparing themselves to capitalize on it. If they're not taking the steps to capitalize on it, that's their fault.
I gotta start talking before you and Smith talk because y'all done stole my thunder, bruh.
Well, did you add this? You can add this part, Bradley. You can add this, right? Check this out, guys. So the part of the government now having control over the weed raises the red flag for me also.
Bruh, that was my thunder too. I ain't got nothing else to say. I ain't got nothing. Go ahead. Y'all can continue for the next minute or two.
I'm just saying, the government is controlling this now. Like, do I want that kind of weed?
Yeah. Like,
what I mean?
My friend, he actually carries a medicinal card, and so he goes to, I forget what shop he goes to. He hates it because he said Curaleaf, which I think they have a stock out there, is like a penny stock. He said that the brand just sucks. So they're like what Smith was talking about earlier. You're going to have the weed hustle because the street hustle because they're going to produce better quality weed than what's going to be mass manufactured in these dispensaries. That's what I personally think. I just don't think that based on people who I know that have medicinal cards who actually go to the dispensaries and what they tell me, they say that a lot of times the quality is better off of the street than it is actually at the store. So, but in regards to like what Shu was saying in regards to jumping the gun, we are jumping the gun on a lot of things. I'm not a big fan of this, what they call the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Like, who are they? Who's going to appoint them? It's more bureaucracy and more government in our business. Like when me and my wife, when we was watching the news breakdown, she reminded me, she was like, yo, it took Maine 4 years to actually start selling weed out of these dispensary shops after they just legalized it. So one of the line items I saw in this article was the fact that the earliest they could project seeing weed being, sold and consumed like that is late 2021 or mid 2022. And that's the earliest they could see it. So yes, as Shu was talking about earlier, it's going to take some time.
It's going to take some time.
It's going to take some time. And that's government for you. Government kind of just makes things a lot more difficult with a lot more red tape. And this is a short news week, so I'm just gonna wrap up the news with this. The market ended on a high this week, pretty much due to the projected winner Biden. The market responded relatively well to a Biden administration. In addition to that, the fact that the Senate is gridlocked as of right now, and that the House there was a couple of seats that kind of flipped to the Republican Party, and the market saw that as a positive, basically on the premise of nothing's going to get accomplished with this administration. And because they see that nothing's going to get accomplished, it's going to be status quo as usual. So
what? There's a new president and everything's still going to be the same? I'm shocked, appalled, and disturbed.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the market, I've noticed that there, this is not a finance podcast at this point with no book selection that talks about it, but there's some things that you could possibly invest in with the Biden administration. So we could have those discussions at another time. But that's that. Like I said, it's a short news week because everything was wrapped up around this administration. I mean, this presidential race and the market. So that's that. So we could transition into the book. This was an excellent book selection by Mr. Henry. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, honestly. So chapter 4 was my favorite because it kind of touches close to home. So we're gonna go ahead and start.
Well, let me just chime in. As I
You're a holy fool.
don't get used to the nonfiction selection. I've just been doing a lot of fiction reading for work. But American Jew is next up on the list.
Oh, shit. Is that why you got that American shirt on? Is that why you got that American shirt on to tell us it's coming back?
Well, let me just say that this is a selection that I deeply appreciate because, like I told Kel before, this is definitely one of my most favorite authors. I've read everything this man has ever produced and written. I also follow his Revisionist History podcast, and I've actually gone to see him speak.
Well, clearly Smith don't appreciate it because he still ain't sending no questions.
Yo, leave my man Smith alone, bruh. It's early. It's too early for that.
You missed when I was telling Shu, but I was on a date last night.
Yeah, did you smash yet?
I ain't do no homework.
Hey, let's not treat her like an object. Did you have a good time last night, Smith?
Yes, I had time on my date last night.
Bro, this is like date number 8, man. I'm not used to this type of Smith.
Yeah, you don't want me to bring her around show. You said you have to wait till it's official, right?
Oh, he must like her. Ooh.
I like her.
You said I must like her? You funny.
Hearing the way she treats Smith, I like her.
Oh, man. All right, let's get started with the questions, fellas. Once again, this is Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers. So we're going to start with Shu's questions, chapter 4. His second question. In chapter 4, Gladwell mentions that the holy fool, aka whistleblower or snitch, this title usually comes at a price. Why are few willing to pay that price?
Now, just to put in perspective, this kind of offshoots from our last week discussion about snitching. And I found it interesting that we got into this book and this chapter about the holy snitch. I mean, the holy fool, I thought it was really interesting how we had just had this discussion about snitch and how there was this perception that it was only, the idea of a snitch is only in the hood, like it's only in the ghetto. But, according to this chapter, it is something that is all over the place, whether you're talking about the holy snitch in the Russian society, or if you're talking about the holy fool in the Russian society, or if you're talking about the child who calls out the emperor for having no clothes. So obviously it's prevalent in all society. And actually, when I put some thought to it, it is prevalent in all societies, because like in corporate society, they call them whistleblowers, The police have, what they call the blue line, where you don't snitch as a cop. So it goes to show that the whole premise of not snitching is not just this gang member, ghetto hood thing. It is a universal thing throughout society. Now, and the main reason why I feel that there is this person called the snitch or the whistleblower or the holy fool is the fact of it's usually one person that won't do it. Even though we all see something wrong, only one person calls it out, because that one person is willing to pay the price, whether it be being made a fool of or losing your job or being, killed even. Like, as you can see in this story, this man, called out Bernie Madoff and was, had guns locked and loaded, waiting for the FCC and everybody else to come, to try to take him out, So whole thing is, I remember our conversation from last week about how, there's all these cowards, that won't snitch. But here, even in the corporate level, there's a price to pay being the snitch. So, like, the question is, why is it that most society doesn't want to pay that price? And I think it's just simply the fact of no one wants to pay that price because, there's a self-interest there, obviously. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my life, even though it's, we all benefit from it, and at the end of the day, there is no, you're not perceived as the hero. You're not perceived as the person who, right? There's no reward whatsoever. There's more of a price than there is a reward.
Yeah, I think from the whole Madoff standpoint, I can understand not snitching because that if it implicates yourself as well because you're just as guilty. I don't understand from the whole Sandusky where you got homeboy seeing what's going down and then you don't say anything. And then as a result of you not saying anything, now you end up being guilty too.
Hold up. Aren't you jumping the gun? Is Sandusky in chapter 5?
Yeah, he wasn't in chapter 4.
No, it was mentioned in chapter 4. Sandusky. Well, the thing wasn't Sandusky was connected to what's the head coach for Penn State?
Joe Paterno.
Yeah. And Joe Paterno was a huge figure, not only in the state of Pennsylvania, but like he was the face of Penn State football. And the fact that he overlooked that program and he could have had some insight as to, Sandusky's misbehavior. That was just something that, some people didn't want to necessarily tarnish.
Well, my bad for jumping ahead.
Of the word, the holy fool. You become the fool, and people look at you as the fool when you speak up because they know what that entails. So, am I foolish enough to speak up and lose my livelihood, to lose my, my comfort? Am I willing to take that risk? So that's where that whole expression of that holy fool. And the people, like Shuba said, if you don't want to lose everything, do I become the whistleblower? The whistleblower is just the person that's saying, yo, this shit is not right. And I see that it's not right. So I need to say something and not allow it to go on. That's all that is. So the holy fool is the person that I see this is not right. But am I foolish enough? Do I want to be that person to speak up and ostracize myself? You know what I mean? Or do I just, roll with everybody else and just go with the crowd?
See, I'm cool with that. If it, I don't understand it if it implicates you and makes you guilty as well, which means you probably should have spoke up sooner.
I was about to say, if it implicates you and make you guilty, then that means that you knew about it before you know what I mean?
That right there makes you a holy fool. Like, bro, you was cool with it before, and now you're not cool with it anymore. Yeah. I don't know if I guess snitching on yourself is the same thing as snitching. No, I don't think it is, bro. You telling on yourself or snitching?
You're just indicting. You're just indicting yourself. Yeah. Like in the story of Harry Marco Polo, because I remember when this went down. It's considered one of the greatest Ponzi schemes of all time, in U.S. history. Harry Marco Polo, he was always a surveillance type of guy. He like Malcolm Gladwell went into, like he's always been one fishing for just inaccuracy of people's reporting, financial reportings. But to what Schubert is saying, in regards to why do few are willing to pay that price, and everyone is selfish, bro. Like I just think that we all genetically carry a selfish trait. It's just like if you're benefiting from the hog, why would you want to kill it? It's just, that's all it is. It's just like people are just looking out for self-interest. It's a messed up situation, but you're not going to get a lot of Harry Marco Polos out there in our society, and that's the unfortunate part. And he's married, like to the extent in which he was willing to go in regards of changing his security cameras, carrying a gun, he realized like there was a greater purpose that needed to be served, and it's noble and it's honorable, man. And it's like, I wish I was more noble and honorable, just like that, man. Knowing that, you could be got like that. But it is what it is. I think everyone is just essentially, we all carry selfish traits.
Yeah. Me first over we.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a me first over we mentality. Like,
now that he, put himself out like that, and as you see his fear of being killed by the FCC and everyone else who might have reason to take him out, do you think it's worth it?
Well, the thing was, like, when you look at who Bernie made
the whole situation, like, he had no money invested in Bernie Madoff.
He did it.
Wasn't anything with it.
Nah, man, but like, there's some people who are noble, man. It is what it is. It's some things that you admire by some folks. Like, it's the reason why people admire Malcolm X. There's a reason why people admire Martin Luther King. There's a reason why people admire Harriet Tubman
and Nelson Mandela. Yeah,
and Nelson Mandela.
In those scenarios, here's the thing: all those names you named had a vested interest. They were all Black, so the problem also affected them. In this case,
Harry Marco Polo told a story growing up, seeing how people used to steal from his dad's restaurant. So for him, at an early age, he did it. He frowned upon the idea of people stealing from other people.
No, but I don't think you're hearing my question. But what I'm saying is, when you mentioned Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, they put themselves out there for a problem that also affected them because they were Black. Harriet Tubman freed slaves because she was a slave. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, they fought the civil rights movement because it was their rights. With this man, he could have been chilling at home, and this whole Madoff thing would not affect him at all because he was like, oh no, that money, that shit sounds suspect. I'm not putting my money with this dude. Everybody else lost their money except for him. So there was nothing in it for him to win at all. There was no.
There was for him to win. It was called personal. He wasn't being selfish. He was being selfless. It was a lot for him to win. That shit was weighing on his conscience. It was eating him alive, so he felt as though he had to speak up. That's what we get into this whistleblower with. Where if I know that we're drugging people and testing them with these drugs, and we're not supposed to do that. And I know that this shit is wrong, but we've been doing this for years. At some point, somebody is going to blow that whistle because it's eating at their damn conscience. You still have people that have a conscience out here.
But no, you're not what I'm saying. I'm not saying what he did isn't noble or respectable or commendable. What I'm saying is, now this man is where he was home chilling, no stress in his life. After taking this action, now he is, while everybody else is benefiting, or everybody else is chilling, he is constantly underneath this stress. Looking to his shoulder.
But that was his job, though, to investigate people like Bernie Madoff. That was essentially his job. That's not like he went out his what?
He called himself a private,
exactly.
Like nobody knew who the hell he was.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I remember the story of Bernie Madoff because I actually read a great detailed article from the Wall Street Journal about Bernie Madoff. The thing is, people were invested in Bernie Madoff that didn't know they were invested in Bernie Madoff. So, for instance, you will hire a financial advisor, right? Your financial advisor is basically taking your money and say, like, yo, I will handle your money. But unbeknown to you, he invested that money into Bernie Madoff. Like, so you get that a lot of times where he's like, because when you're in a financial industry, you see how that always works out. So like, you might think, oh, okay, my money's set with, Kelvin Henry and stuff. He's invested in such and such. And you don't realize that money is also being invested in Bernie Madoff. And there's so many people prior to Bernie Madoff who got caught up in that scam. So when he saw that, he had, like what Smith is saying, his conscience was eating at him in the sense of like, yo, I cannot let the thousands of people out here be harmed by such a gentleman like this, because there are some people out here who don't even know that they're connected to Bernie Madoff that's going to be impacted by his investment strategies or lack thereof.
And once again, I completely understand and I agree with you. What I'm talking about is the fact of now this man has this stress of feeling like there's always a target on his head. Like,
but this is what you're saying, Shub. You're saying so on my block, I see a gang doing something to somebody, right? And I go out because I think it's wrong. And I go out to stop them. I've just done that same thing and put a target on my back.
Right. And I agree with
people
that.
do that though. People are willing to take on that level of stress because it just bothers them. Sometimes shit bothers you. You have to take on a level of stress for the greater good.
Let me reiterate my question a different way. Do you think you can handle having that type of stress of knowing there's a possible target on your head at all times?
Some people can, some people can't.
Yes,
exactly.
I
exactly.
handle it every day being black, bro. What's wrong with you?
Oh my God.
I'm serious.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
I'm serious though.
Could you live with that target on your head, knowing the fact that someone might be targeting you? Not in the sense of like every day, like, you know, just being, I mean, specifically, they want not black man, they want Hakeem Smith. I want that motherfucker dead. I want his dick cut off. I want his mom dead. I want his kids dead. I want him specifically, you know, like that targeting, not like, you know, broad targeting like all black men. Like I'm talking. Do you think that you could live with that?
Will I want that now? No. Have I lived in that kind of fear when I was drug dealing? Yeah. Would I want that kind of target? No. Too old for that. But again, when you stepping up, sometimes you're not realizing the consequences that come with certain things. You're not thinking about that because in the moment, I got to do what's right for my spirit and my soul.
It also depends on how close to home it hits. Like if I can see this dude, you know, stealing from, he's stealing from 100 or 1,000 people. I don't know them, but I know that what he's doing is wrong. Then no, maybe I'm not saying anything to put a target on my back. But if it's in my community and I see the people who I personally know getting affected, then maybe
Yeah, because to that point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because Harry Mocha Post was saying like, yo, he was connected to someone who was invested with Bernie Madoff. And he was just like, how is this dude bringing such a great return during a down market? So he knew someone who was impacted by the scam of Bernie Madoff. Mm-hmm. Now, there's just some people who's willing to take on that burden. I'm not here to say whether or not, you know, it's right or wrong and stuff. It's just some people who's just built like that. Like, yo, I don't give a shit.
And I respect it. Don't get me wrong, I respect it. As a soldier, I respect it.
Yes. Some people got that.
You know, a lot of us, I just think it's interesting. A lot of us are not built that way.
Nah, we're not. Nah, you're right. We're not. The vast majority of us, you can say over 90% of us don't have that courage. There's Edward Snowden, who basically snitched on the government. The TSA government. He's out there living in Russia because he said, "Yo, your U.S. government is spying on you." Yo, to know that you can't come back home.
If I know that I speak up in my building and there's going to be a target, then I probably will not speak up. That's just how people are. Some people are willing to do that, but if I know that, you know, I have a principal that's an asshole and they want to come in, they want to come after me because I speak up about something that might put people in that position that they don't speak up. Me, I wouldn't give a fuck. I'm going to say my mind because, you know, I think that it's just right with certain things, you know.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on
moderator.
Right? It also depends on the type of protection that you can get. Just for that example, like if I'm a tenured teacher teaching for however many years, knowing that ain't nothing that happen to me if I speak up when I see something is wrong, then yeah, I'm doing it.
All right, well, that wraps up that question. Next one. This is from Kelvin. These chapters touch on the fact that we couldn't detect spies. Why do we give people the benefit of the doubt when it comes to lying?
I'll go first. Keep it short and sweet. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know which chapter it was, but they were saying that even when presented with evidence that people were dishonest, they're still leaning towards, oh, well, I think that they're telling the truth. I think in a lot of cases, you just don't want to believe the truth. Like, what was that homegirl who was the spy? Everybody was like, no, it couldn't have been her. I was so surprised, X, Y, and Z. I just think it's just hard for them.
Yeah, the spy Anna Montez.
Part of it is you don't want to believe the truth. Part of it is you don't want to look silly for not knowing, especially when, a big part of it is your job to know. I think above all else, though, it's just like you just don't want to believe the truth. Like, I couldn't think that this person could ever do this to me.
Yeah, they kind of touched on it. Chapter 2 was really great. I love this is why Malcolm Gladwell is one of the greatest writers in American history, and this is why Shu, quite often praise him, and I have several of his books too, because I love the historical context about what happened in Germany, Hitler, and how basically Chamberlain and his comrades basically failed to read Hitler and his initiative. Is that personal connection. Once you build a rapport, you tend to try to find goodness in people, and that's the problem. It's just like, it blinds your judgment because you try your best as human beings to find good in people. I think that's why people are unable to detect someone ill intent for you.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Shu.
I think it's more a fact of we are conditioned from childhood to accept whatever is first presented to us.
Get him, Shu. That's where I was going.
When you're a child, whatever someone tells you is gospel. If you have no reason to doubt it, you haven't built up that distrust or disloyalty till you go through some things that may cause you to question or cause you to have doubt. So when I meet Kelvin, if I met Kelvin off the street and I never met him before, he said his name is Kelvin. His name might be Jermaine, but he says his name is Kelvin. I have no reason not to trust that his name is Kelvin. He says he's a vice principal. I have no reason not to believe he's not a vice principal. Now, as I get to know him, deal with him, if he introduces me to Smith, Smith calls him Kelvin, he knows him as a vice principal, that reinforces what I know about him or what information he's already given me. Now, if I meet Smith, he's like, nah, that's Jermaine. And he works down at the Piggly Wiggly with me. Now I have reason to question what was originally said. Because
in some of the instances, they're saying even when there's evidence that's pointing to the contrary, the people still don't want to believe it.
But the whole thing is that it depends on how much information is being piled on. So if, let's change the scenario. Hakeem says his name is Kelvin. Bradley says his name is Kelvin. Tamara says his name is Kelvin. Lachelle says his name is Michael. Which one am I going to believe? The multiple sources I've gotten that says Kelvin, or the one source that says Michael? Now, if all three of them said Michael and Lachelle's the only one that says Kelvin, then I'm going to say, well, it's piling up on the other side. I don't have, so I need to build up. So for instance, when we go to court with the underneath the suspicion that person is innocent until proven guilty. All right, so that's the thing. Until you're proven guilty, I have no reason to believe of your guilt. I have to automatically assume that you're innocent because that is the default. As a child, that's the default. Whatever my parents tell me, I live at 21 Garden Street. Okay, I have to take that as gospel until something proves it different or until I learn better. So I think it's just the fact that we've been conditioned that way to accept whatever information is given to us at first until later on that we question. This is the reason why we follow religion. This is the reason why we follow politics. The reason why we pay our taxes is the conversation we were talking about before, is the fact of we go with what has already been put in place as the primary until something goes against it or enough compiles against it for us to change our position.
Yeah, and with that, we're also taught that small lies don't have an effect. Just to piggyback everything that you said, Shu, but we're taught that, from that child, that small lies don't have an effect. We're taught about little white lies. I don't even know what the hell a white lie is versus a black lie, but that's another story. But we're told that these little white lies. White lies matter. Good word.
Well,
we're taught from this young age, and then it becomes a lie. But a lot of what you said, Shu, like where you're talking about, I don't know that you're a liar until I learn that you're a liar. I have to meet you where you are. And most people, that's where we meet them until we discover that, yo, man, this nigga's a liar. This motherfucker be lying all the time. Like, I don't even know why you believe him. He's a liar. Like, he's a, what do you call that? Pathological liar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just can't help himself. I got a new car. Oh, you did? Well, it's not actually a new car, but I did get one, and it's like you just lying for no reason. So, I think we just have been conditioned to do that. And one of the things that I was looking at with that, and I want to do a little more reading. Is that why we like really strained our relationship with Cuba, because they made us look dumb as hell? Like, I'm serious.
I'm serious, yo. This book has been having to go back, and I've been researching a lot of because Gladwell then brought up a lot of historical events that I'm like, geez, man, I got to go back and revisit these situations.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember Madoff kind
because it's not too long ago. Yeah,
very good. But I was just like, wow, is that the reason? You have spies on spies, and you got a guy saying, well, he's a spy, he's a double, she's a double, everybody's a double, and it's like, it seemed like they made America look real stupid.
Stupid, yeah.
And then America said, no, we will never deal with Cuba ever.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I don't have the foreign relations expertise on Cuba and American relationships. I have no clue.
I was just curious though when you said that. I was like, damn, that's when you make somebody look stupid, they don't want to deal with you. Embarrassing.
As the only one here who's actually has Cuba, and the only one being here who has Cuban actually had family who defected and all of that. And my understanding from what tales that my grandmother told me and so forth is that basically Castro had this mindset of like, yo, fuck America. They're capitalists. They're just bought out by the corporations, this, that, and the other, and they want to come over to Cuba and merchandise everything. Pop up a McDonald's here, or pop up a Gucci over there, this, that, and the other, and take advantage of Cuba. And basically, because of that mindset, where Cuba was completely against America because of that mindset. I think that America basically was just like, yo, these guys don't want to open up the borders. They could be a threat or whatever the case may be. So they try to, and they were trying to get Castro out. They were trying to make him, demonize him as this awful, dictator and this, that, and the other, as if he was like Saddam executing his people or something like that. Did he keep his people partly, pretty much in the dark ages? Pretty much, because like if you go to Cuba now, probably a couple of years ago, this, that, and the other, just the cars alone would have been something you would have found from back in 1970 something. These people have gotten very resourceful on how to recycle and reuse and this, that, and the other. They didn't like Castro didn't like the American culture of the way they would in Cuba. It doesn't matter whether you're slim, you're fat, you're beautiful. Versus here in America, unless you look like blonde, blue-eyed Debbie, then something wrong with you, and you need to improve your appearance. So all those things Castro saw as like a detriment to his people, and basically.
Yeah, I definitely got to read some books and watch some documentaries on the relationship. Didn't Obama do something in his last year, in his last term with the Cuba relationship, where you could like open up international travels to Cuba?
Yeah, they started working on it.
Yeah.
So, with Castro being gone, dead and gone, everything, his brother who took over, whatever, there's been a little bit more leeway with America and Obama and everything. But before that, Americans would have to like lie about being Americans, fly. You have to go to Canada to fly in from Canada, because you could fly into Cuba coming from another country such as Canada, but you couldn't come in from America.
That's how they going to treat you, Henry, if you don't pay your taxes. You're going to be treated like Cuba. They ain't going to fuck with you.
Yeah, I just pay my taxes, man. Cass, what's your take on the question, bro?
I just want to. I think I answered the question, but I do got one quick thing to ask both Schubert and Smith, because one of the things, like in chapter 2, this wasn't the spy related ones, but back to like the whole, Neville Chamberlain and Lord Halifax meeting with Hitler and them not getting a good read on Hitler, where it's like Winston Churchill, from a distance didn't know Hitler. He just didn't like how he operated and just thought the worst of him. So like, it's interesting because they didn't necessarily get a lot from Hitler, Adolf Hitler, saying that, he was going to invade, I forget which part of where he was going to invade, but they essentially just misread him. Like, it wasn't like Hitler gave a white lie or anything. I think they missed clues about Hitler, because clues, each time they both met Hitler, he came across as belligerent, he came across as short-tempered, he came across as impatient, but yet they were still willing to overlook all those qualities. So my question is really more so like, is it best to like have shorter interaction with people who might be hostile, so that way you could get a better read of them, or just let the relationship be what it is, and you could just have longer relationships with them?
Honestly, I don't think that people get a better read of a person whether they're with them shorter period of time, longer period of time. I think it's because obviously, like, with the situation with the CIA, where they spent plenty of time with these people, worked with these people on a regular basis, and didn't know that these people were, double agents, So even with a longer period of time, it didn't work out. Short period of time doesn't work out. In the microsecond period of time between Sandra Blake and the police officer, it doesn't work out. I think it only seems to work out when you make it a very objective position. So if you look at a manuscript of what was said and what was done, versus what being in the moment and catching the emotions of it. So, for instance, one of my biggest problems with the whole election process is that it manipulates people's emotions. It shouldn't matter whether the candidate is white, black, male, female, black, Asian, female, whatever the fuck. That has nothing to do with it. If anything, if you had a true intellectual election, it would simply be candidates A, B, and C. You don't know their names, their ages, their skin color, their sex, gender. You just know A, B, and C. Secondly, you know their education levels. Third, you would know their experience in politics, and then finally, you would know where they stand on the issues, because that's truly all the information you need to make an intellectual decision. Whether they're Catholic, Muslim, his name is Obama, her name is Sarah Palin. That shit doesn't fucking matter. But because we're humans and we get caught up in our emotions and completely put our intellect to the back burner, we make bad decisions.
Yeah, that's what Winston Churchill. Go ahead, Smith.
Yeah, it's a lot of that is right on, but we also don't know until that person decides to let us know. So we just did this with Trump. I have my preconceived notions of Trump prior to him getting in office because I knew about him and his character. So he got in office, and we watched this thing for 3.5 years, just about. And we watch how, as you say, if it was a short time in the beginning, how he was, and now we watch where he got to and how he's and everything, right? So, it doesn't matter if you see somebody for a short time or a long time. it's basically looking at track records and things, because the lady, what's her name? Rachel, I want to say Rachel Dawson, who took on the moniker of being a black woman. And
Rachel Dolezal. Yeah.
Like that lie was there for all this time, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until she actually came forward with it. So am I not to believe her? Am I not to, like Shuba said, am I not to believe that she's black from this little interaction that I had, or from this long interaction that I had, or even looking at her transcripts, you know what I mean? Looking at her records. She could have taken that shit to her grave, you know what I mean? And people would not have known. So I don't know. Shit's weird.
It was just amazing to see how Winston Churchill, from a distance, with very little to no interaction with Hitler, and he was able to just read him. Like, he's just someone who can't be trusted. And it's just like the way Malcolm Gladwell just painted that picture. I was just like, oh, so does a short bit of, interaction matters more than a long bit of interaction? But like to you guys were saying, it's just based on the objective details that you're given.
Yeah, because if you got a dude, let's just say there's a dude that just comes, and we know very little about him, can you just look at him and pull off what Winston Churchill pulled off? You know what I mean? Can you just look at somebody and be like, or is that shit what we call stereotyping a motherfucker?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a stereotype. I'm saying, am I just looking at somebody and saying, yo, he's probably a demented motherfucker? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You got to have some kind of interaction to get a feel, to just, unless he just had that feeling, like his soul spoke and he felt it spiritually or something. I don't know. That seems weird to me. Like, you would have to have some kind of interaction to get a more of an idea. Maybe he just had a feeling about him. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, it was just weird. It was just like he was just gathering information with not even bother to interact with him. He was just like, yo, F that. We need to go.
But if you went outside your house right now and there was a dude standing on the corner, we're not doing the canvas. I mean, we're doing the canvas like people said. There's a dude standing on the corner, so he has no race or anything. Are you going to make assumptions about this guy that's just randomly standing on your corner?
No, because like here's the thing, being that I'm a black male, like I didn't want to be judged in that way, so I never really judged anyone else in that way. Like if you standing on the corner, you just standing on the corner. It is what it is. Like I'm just minding my business.
That's what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
I got a question now. Now I want to canvas it. So you're minding your business. He's standing on the corner. He has a rag hanging out of his pocket. He's smoking a cigarette.
I'm still minding my business.
You're still minding your business?
Yeah. It's just like he could be waiting for an Uber ride for all I know.
Good. Because you're supposed to mind your business. You're not supposed to be a Karen, brother.
Yeah. It's just like he could be waiting for an Uber ride or a ride, or it's just like he's waiting for a partner to come to a spot and get a job done. I'll never forget when I was in raggedy clothes when I was doing repairs in my house, and it's just like I remember just seeing people walk up and down a block. And I didn't like how they were looking at me, man. Like, it was just like I just did it. I was just like, yo, I own this house. It is what it is. So I try not to.
But check how they were looking at you. You see how that works, though?
Yeah. So that's why I try not to like look at people and just assume the worst of them. I just be like, yo, maybe he's waiting for a ride. For all I know.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know. That Winston Churchill, that was he saw something,
You had something, Henry?
No, this is still my question, bro. We ain't moving to the next one. I'm good.
This next question is something for me. So in chapter 2, Gladwell discussed John Klingsberg's algorithm and machine learning ability to detect reoccurring criminals at a better accuracy. So the question is, should humans embrace AI for decision making? I know the past few weeks, Schubert has always did a great job sending me videos from Code Fusion, right? True. That's the site, Code Fusion, in regards of AI learning and machine learning. I presented some articles regarding what Amazon is doing and other technology companies are essentially trying to do. And when they got to this part of the chapter and they talked about how John Kingsbury's machine learning was able to basically tell when a person's going to be a criminal again, instantly I was thinking Minority Report. I was just like, holy crap, like this thing is on some Minority Report level type of ish. And I don't know, man, being that it was so significantly better because the machine is not necessarily having that emotional connection. I think honestly, I know based on the reactions we've been having when, either I present an article from Schubert or myself, I know like it hasn't been like a unanimous sort of feel of like, nah, I'm good with this sort of AI stuff. I don't know. Reading that particular part, I'm thinking like, maybe AI is not all too bad in the sense of I think we should just be more comfortable with AI.
And that part is bad. If you're going to detect who's a criminal before a crime is even done.
Well, that's Minority Report.
But in this part of, like you said, before I even think of committing a crime, I'm found guilty.
Well, that's
so
Minority.
I can't even have the thought of it. Yeah, that's not.
Well, that's Minority Report. But in that chapter, though,
he was talking about the police was letting criminals off that would do a crime again.
Yeah,
repeat offenders, basically.
Yeah, repeat offenders.
And the calculations that the AI was saying that this person would do another crime, it would do another crime, and the police having that people part, having a little bit of empathy, were letting the people out, saying give them a chance.
But they were doing it wrongly.
AI is not accounting for rehabilitation at all either. AI is just saying you're going to be a criminal and lock them up. The people are accounting for rehabilitation and trying to give you an opportunity and a chance. AI is never giving you that chance at all. You'll just be locked up forever, whether you committed that crime or not. I think you got to be careful when you start dealing with the artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I think that we should be open to the idea, a little bit more accepting, because it's going to happen eventually, clearly. I mean, the only flaw in the whole AI was that they didn't take certain things into account. Like, did I miss my court case because I had to be in the hospital or because I would have lost my job? But in the grand scheme of things, the AI still made the right decision a higher percentage of the time than the people who made the decision, that made the same decision that the AI did.
Yeah.
So I think because there's no way, but it's going to happen eventually, whether it's in this dynamic or a different one, we just need to be open to the idea. Do we need to like it? No, but understanding that it's probably going to be the future.
Okay. What you're basically telling me is something is going to think for me without me thinking for myself, what Google does and Amazon does now.
Yeah. So we're fine with that.
But at a greater level.
Yeah, like it doesn't seem creepy that like your iPhone can start tracking the places that you start going and like start suggesting it for you. We don't complain about that. For the fact you can just talk to your phone and it can tell it what you want it to do, we're not complaining about that. So they're gradually getting us ready for what's to come.
Black Zeus?
This is complicated.
Complicated. Very complicated.
The key part is the artificial intelligence part of it and the human part of it. On the human part of it, we're still trying to figure out if we are who we are because of nature or because of nurture. You know what I mean? Like, some people are just an alpha type where they are just successful, they're driven, this, that, and the other. Or is it because that's the way they were born? Or is that because of, environmental effects? Like we're still trying to figure that part out. If we are who we are because of nature or because of nurture. And we don't know. We honestly don't know. We don't know why we think what we think. We don't understand why our personalities are the way they are. By the time I finish this statement, whatever, you won't even know where your thought process came from to your rebuttal to my question, but it did come. But you don't know exactly where it came from, how it formulated, and this, that, and the other. We don't know how the human psyche works. that being said, the AI is simply going off of statistics, information, just plain old you are who you are and your patterns are what your patterns are. So the whole thing is that that's how Facebook or Google or Amazon is able to say, oh, you like this? Well, 20 other people who fill the same profile as you, who did the same things that you did, pick the same colors, pick like this. So maybe you'll like this too. And 9 out of 10 times it's right because you are who you are. So if AI system is basing that you will repeat a crime or that you are a threat or that you should not be let out to society, is not basing off of some sort of bias like you're black, like you're white, like you're male, like you're female. It's based off of your behavior and your track record. If you have no track record, the AI can't make a judgment on you. But if you have a track record of violence, a track record of theft, a track record of whatever, and your behavior is constantly showing those actions, then the AI is going to assume based off of your track record. If you are someone who showed up to your court appearance, like one time you had a court appearance and you missed it, it's not going to assume that you didn't show up because you're a threat or because you ran away. You don't have a track record. So the whole thing is, I think the argument of like, oh, you missed your court date because of whatever reason is gonna go 100% against you is ludicrous because there's no track record there. But if you have a track record of going to court or being summoned to court and missing court date after court date, now you have a track record. So there's a reason for you to be held or not be held, whatever case may be. So I don't see it really as a threat or a problem, as long as it's not being manipulated, as long as it's being using actual objective information, not any biases. Because most people, 9 out of 10, the problem is we have our biases.
And I was going to say, but that's being created, but man is creating that. So when he's creating that programming, you don't think that he puts his biases in this programming somehow?
No, not when you got the statistics in it.
Is it possible? Yes. But the whole thing is that if you're setting up a system, a universal system that is not biased, it's based off of, your behavior, then, like I said, it has nothing to do with any other factors. Like it was said, the only information that was given to the system was a person's track record. That was it. It didn't know black or white or male or female. All it knew was your track record.
Yeah.
So do you think that
I don't like it because you're saying you're basing it off a track record. If I'm basing a student's education off of their track record, then there'll never be a good student. That particular student.
But that's what colleges do. They base your acceptances based off of your track record. All they see is, and even Smith, with Newark.
Yeah, but I'm talking about before you get to college. I'm talking about elementary school.
But high schools do it too, Smith, and Newark, where the kids have to apply for high schools. All they see is the ID number, the test scores, and their grades.
That's how
they
changed it over. That's how they changed it over to in Newark. It wasn't like that. In some schools, you still have to take a test. But that's how it is now. Some schools you have to take a test for. Some schools you have to audition for. So it's still not a cookie cutter. There is no cookie cutter approach. The one thing I do like about AI is what they use for sports analytics. So going back to the last book of gambling and illegal sports betting, that's what AI is used. And the analytics gets right down to the exact score. The AI knows exactly what this score is going to be with a plus or minus ratio of like 0.5, plus minus 1 to half of a point, 1 point to half a point, half a point.
Is it because AI is saying, hey, I like Brady over Manning, or is it because they're looking at statistics?
They're looking strictly at statistics. They're playing it out. They play it out. They play the scenarios over and over.
How is it different than someone having a track record for criminal actions, or a student having a bad track record in education?
You even look at job applicants, right? They look at your track record. They take that into account as well.
Oh, speaking of job applications, a lot of job applications now get run through algorithms. I could tell you firsthand because HR, I know somebody in HR, and they basically said that they don't necessarily comb through resumes like they used to. They use like some sort of algorithm to detect which is the best candidate.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. It still goes to what is that algorithm that they're setting up.
Yeah.
And unless the person has no bias, because I was just doing this on Friday, talking about biases in the classroom, basically. And a lot of Caucasian teachers, even some Spanish teachers, they have biases and they don't know that they have these biases towards these students. They don't even know that they have these shits. They do what Hunter Biden just said recently. Not Hunter Biden. What's my man name? Trump's son.
Jared Kushner.
Yeah, what he was saying, we can't help you if you don't want to help yourself.
Yeah, like the accountability.
Yeah, that's what these teachers were saying. I'm saying, how the fuck, there's this long-standing trauma that's going on with some of these students, and if you don't take that into account, you have to get through that part first to figure out, So I think it's still that algorithm still bothers me, and who's putting it up. You know what I mean?
Cass, what you think?
I struggle with this. I'm with Smith. I'm with Smith, and I'm with Shu. Especially with Shu, like there's that human element in it, but I just think that and like I look at these algorithms, and the little stories that I read, and the way they accurately depict certain things, even in the medicines, it's just like the way they're able to accurately, pick up people's diagnosis properly better than a doctor's diagnosis.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where as much as I try to push back against this idea of AI and their existence, it seems to be in many ways, they tend to do a better job in just in objectively assessing what needs to be done.
Yeah, if you can go to the doctor and you can put in, you got a human doctor here and a computer doctor, the AI doctor, and you tell the doctor the three things that are ailing you, and you put those into the computer, and the computer can tell you immediately what your problem is, and the doctor still has to run tests and do blood work and all this. Yeah, I mean, I can see how that can be helpful.
So in the grand scheme of things, when you think about the whole education and you think about everything else, in the grand scheme of things, does the accuracy, does the fact that it's that much more accurate, does it outweigh the whole idea of human compassion? Like there is no human compassion. Like is the trade-off worth it?
Go ahead, Black Zeus.
So I remember reading something about judges, right? Where it said that if you get a judge in the morning, you're more likely to get a judge that's going to give you a favorable judgment, right?
Yes.
After lunchtime, after he's hungry, he's tired, it's been a long day, he's a lot more irritable, this, that, and the other. His judgment tends to veer off. And this study was done with multiple judges, all right? Now, add in that judge is from upper, I don't want to say upper Montclair, let's say Bergen County, right? And, he's a Trump supporter. And you are in his courtroom as a black male in the afternoon when he's tired and hungry. And there is a case that says that, you've had 2 offenses in the past. They might have been years apart, this, that, and the other. He doesn't like the way you look. You look like a threat. You look like a problem. You know what I mean? And he makes a judgment based off of that versus the system that's going to make a judgment off of, well, he's had 2 offenses. They weren't non-violent, and they were many years ago. And this offense that he's in for today is a misdemeanor. And the computer system is going to make a much more fair judgment than that human that is tired and hungry and irritable and emotional. So at the end of the day, AI will still win in that case because AI is not like, it's kind of like if you ever go to the store and you buy something from the store and you go through the cashier versus you going through one of those self-checkouts. That self-checkout doesn't get tired. It doesn't get irritable. It doesn't give you the wrong price. It doesn't need to do a price check because it's already there. All right.
Yeah, sure. And to that, they also done that study with doctors. Like it's always best if you're gonna get a medical procedure done, try to schedule that as early as possible because that doctor might be tired and irritable towards the later part of the day. So yeah, I just want to add that too because I saw that for the doctor's aspect too. But continue.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The AI is going to make and it's going to sound messed up, a cold, callous decision, which probably needs to be made. Because the whole thing is that judge or that doctor or whoever makes the wrong decision, the impact can be much more tremendous.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It like to be honest, AI when they was breaking down the Kleinsberg machine learning, obviously is not implemented. They just is an observation. I know we were having these discussions when I was in college. I took a ethics course, and that aspects of AI was brought up. And I think you're gonna hear many conversations like this before AI really make those decisions for us in our lives. So it's just one of those things that is interesting. It makes me lean towards AI a whole lot more, just to basically get better reads of people without having that sort of biased lens. And it just I don't know. I think it makes life a little bit more smoother. Now, granted, I understand where Smith is coming from. Like, that whole rehabilitation aspect of it. It's just like, we can't dismiss that. People can change. But man, it's just, I don't know, man. It makes for an interesting future, I guess.
Yes. And don't get me wrong. I agree with Smith. People can change. But
yeah.
The whole thing is if you had to gamble, are you going to take the chance that's 9 out of 10 in your favor, or are you going to take the 50-50 gamble?
I'm taking the 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with the AI. It's a 9 out of 10. It's not a 50-50. With that doctor, with that judge, or whatever case may be, it's more of a 50-50.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, last question. This is a Black Zeus question. In the story of Montezuma, the problems were caused by a lack of understanding of cultural differences and a lack of communication. Are most of the U.S. social, economic, and political issue caused by the same obstacles?
Now, the premise behind this question is that, as we've talked about the different issues like the Ice Cube contract with Black America, or police brutality, or bailouts, all these different subjects. I find that everyone has an opinion, but no one has an understanding or any experience in that area to really speak on it. It's just it amazes me. Like people who don't know shit about business want to say how businesses should be run. People who don't know anything about politics say how politics should be run. White people feel that Black people should act a certain way. Black people feel like white people should act a certain way. All this without any understanding of the opposition, their culture, their understanding, their belief, their views, and then there's no desire to have communication with the opposing side. It's no, forget what you have to say. I'm right, you're wrong. I don't want to hear your side. We just discussed this type of mentality in the myth of male power, where it's like, oh, you men, y'all don't know, you don't want to talk about your feelings. But then when you do talk about your feelings, no, your feelings are wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. So that being said, I'm seeing this same situation with the Montezuma and Cortez, where they don't understand each other. They have and I know a little bit more about the story because I've actually read up on Montezuma and Cortez. It went actually much deeper. It started with the basic Montezuma presenting himself in a noble and childlike way, meaning the fact that I am great and powerful. And then they were further on, Montezuma made a gave a gift to Cortez of, I believe, gold or something towards that effect. And the cultural way about the Aztec was that I give you a gift, and in return you give me a gift. And Cortez did not return a gift back to Montezuma, which caused another insult, and it just went on and on and on, and in both directions, where there was a miscommunication, lack of communication, lack of cultural understanding, and it just it ended the way it ended. So I'm just wondering, in our culture, where we talk about Black Lives Matter, and someone says all lives matter, or we talk about Trump, we talk about Biden, we talk about economics, we talk about transgender, blah, blah, blah. Is it that we are constantly not trying to understand another culture's viewpoint and not having open dialogue and communication with one another?
I think one of the biggest phrase of America, or I don't know, motto of America is like this whole, we're a melting pot. Like, yeah, we are, but in many ways we're not. A lot of times, when people migrate here, or just people who are already settled here, like, we kind of live in communities that are reflective of what our beliefs are. And a lot of times we don't interact with each other, despite this whole idea that we're a melting pot. We don't, for the most part. And like you said, I think a lot of me personally, what I think is everyone thinks their values is just better than someone else's values. And you're just never going to have that sort of civility amongst us. It's just not, because someone's going to say your culture sucks, or you value capitalism more than someone's civility and shit like that, and not understanding that economics is important to to the livelihood of a society. And I just think that, honestly, in the problems of the U.S., I think we need to just do away with this idea that we could actually all live together harmoniously. It's not happening. I live in that. I know it sounds messed up. It's just that I don't believe that America is this genuine melting pot that people perceive it to be. I think that we tend to really just live in the enclaves of communities that reflect our beliefs.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we're a melting pot in the sense of, you have a country that has a whole bunch of different nationalities. I just don't know how well we all get along. As far as like the cultural differences, I don't even know if it's necessarily for lack of understanding. I just think it's or even maybe lack of communication. I just more like, I think that this is the best, that our way is the best, and I'm not really trying to hear anybody else's opinion about it. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, we're caused by these obstacles. That's a great question, Black Zeus. But yeah, the lack of understanding, because we're not trying to understand each other. We don't want to show civility towards one another. We only try to pull together when we think something affects us as a nation. When we think something affects us as a nation, 9/11. If aliens came down, out of spaceships and shit, then we would like, oh shit, it's us against them kind of thing. But overall, we're not raised to have that level of civility towards one another. I think that I'm starting to see some youth that seems like they trying to round the corner with that a little bit, but that those things have to be taught. And yes, we are a melting pot. We're a fucking dysfunctional melting pot, but we are a melting pot. You gotta remember, most other cultures are doing fine because it's just their culture. You know what I mean? If you go to another country, you just have that culture for the most part. So it's different. Even though you have different races, you still are working with a certain culture of people. So that's different. When you come to America, you have every culture that, like you said, you have these, like Cash was saying, you have these little pockets where, that the Haitians are going to be over here, the Jamaicans are going to be over here, the Chinese are going to be over here, whatever the case may be. I was talking to this young lady, and I was saying, it's only in America where we have like Chinatowns, you know what I mean, and Korean towns and things like that. We don't never say that that's the Black town. we don't never say that's the white town, but we definitely say Chinatown. And we even have Little Havana and shit. We have places like Little Havana and shit, baby Cuba. But
yeah, we got Little Hill, Italy too.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And but we go into, like you said, those sections, and we, stick with our own race, culture, religions, whatever. And we're just not willing to sit down. If we were willing to, like, people sit and have a cordial conversation like what we're having right now, and be honestly willing to listen, that would be different. But, people are too emotional. They're not necessarily ready to listen. Black Zeus will say something that will offend somebody. And instead of them trying to have an understanding about that, they're trying to, be in attack mode. They're trying to be in attack and survive. I have to attack. I gotta retreat and punch at the same time. I gotta defend and attack. So that's we're always gonna be fucked up with that until that we teach differently. And I'm not talking about in the classroom. I'm talking about we teach differently, like from the time that we're bringing up our kids. You know what I mean? That was a great ass question, though, man. And we're fucked in America, yo. America is a shitty ass place.
I don't know if we're fucked, because honestly, I like the whole idea of pot. I'm glad you said that, because here's the thing. When I think of a pot, and I think of, let's say, a stew, we put the potatoes in there, we put the vegetables in there, we put the meats in there, all of it into this one stew. And we cook it up for whatever amount of time, 6 months a year, 6 months, 6 minutes, an hour, whatever the case may be. The potatoes are still potatoes. The carrots are still carrots, the meat is still meat. It's all what it is originally is. Mm-hmm. But it all has an effect on each other because it's been cooked in the same broth. That potato is still a potato, but it still has a little bit of flavor from the carrots and the meat. And the same thing with the meat and the carrots and so forth and so on. And the broth is what brings it all together. I kind of see the country as a place of where, yes, you can still be a potato, you can still be a piece of meat, you can still be a carrot. It doesn't change your identity. But you have an understanding that you still live in the same broth, and it's okay for you to be a little bit affected or changed by the broth and have a little bit of that carrot flavor, have a little bit of that potato flavor, that meat flavor, this, that, and the other. It actually might, in a way, make you better versus you just standing on all alone as just a separate part of the plate, So the whole thing is that I think like we don't have to lose our identities. You can still be a Black man in America. You can still be a Chinese man in America. You still be who you are, be your identity. The whole thing is having an identity, having an understanding of the other cultures around you that you are living with, sharing the space with, this broth with, can make society better. But being the fact that we are so focused on just being what we are, and we don't want to mix, we don't want the broth there, I think we actually damage that pot, ourselves by not wanting to make that that leap or that understanding. Because I remember just growing up, music was always big to me as a kid, and I listened to all different types of music, everything from hip hop to alternative rock to grunge music, everything, and I saw beauty in all of it, I would understand it, this, that, and in multiple different ways, and I would have different moments where I felt one type of music versus another. And I remember one of my friends coming over and hearing me listen to a Linkin Park CD, which I felt like was one of the best bands I've ever heard. And he was like, "Oh, you listen to that crazy white boy music?" And it's just like, did you actually listen to it? Did you actually understand the words? What was written in the music? Do you understand where they're coming from? You automatically labeled it as crazy white boy music instead of trying to understand it, trying to listen to it and say, get anything from it. The same way, a bunch of country assholes were saying that Nas X music wasn't country, and then Billy Ray Cyrus went through his voice on there. It's like, now it's country, motherfuckers. What? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is, I think we can change, and with time that if we will become a melting pot where we'll still have our identity and still have our our cultures, this and the other, while still having a melting pot of American culture, which is the broth.
Well, two things I want to say to that. Like, one, I think a lot of times people's religion get in the way of that. Like America has made tremendous strides on LGBTQ rights, but you're still going to have people with strong religious ties that are not necessarily going to embrace that. And you could, answer that a little bit later after I bring up a second part. And I think some people ideologies like economic and social ideologies also hinder that, because one of the things I saw a little bit disconcerting on Friday when they were revealing the statistical demographics of who voted for Trump and who voted for Biden. So when it was breaking down like who voted for Trump, overwhelmingly you had a large swath of Cubans voting for Trump, whereas you had overwhelmingly a large swath of Puerto Ricans voting for Biden. And one of the narratives that I was hearing was they basically try to say that, well, these Cubans are Latinos because they voted for Trump. Now, granted, that's not a battle I can make, but it's just like, I just think that a lot of times people's ideologies and then people's religions gets in the way. And I just think that, honestly, I don't know, America is still an experiment that is interesting. And I just don't know if we could truly get to the point of truly being the melting pot in essence, the way we perceive it to be.
I think the only way that can truly happen is when the lines get blurred, and those lines get blurred when
you have mixed children.
I didn't want to be blunt about it, but that's when the lines get blurred.
That's when it get blurred, man.
For instance, me being a Haitian Cuban man, black man in America, and my wife being an Irish, Scottish, blue-eyed white woman in America, now have a little Haitian Cuban, Irish, Scottish, German, Lithuanian, English, kid in America. All right. Yeah. The lines are blurred. Where at what point is he white? At what point is he black? At what point is he, an American? At what point is he Haitian? At what point is he Cuban? You know what I mean? Like those lines are blurred. And when those lines are blurred, all of a sudden they don't matter.
Yeah. And those are blurry lines.
So you're saying that we just need to start messing around with races?
Mixed races, man.
Mixed races. Yeah. Mixed races is the way.
That's the way, man. That's the way. That's the way you blur the lines.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, let's say, and idealistically, this is just idealistically, let's say mixed couples become the majority of America, right? Or a good portion of America. Now where, someone might, like a white cop may give a white kid more of a break because he
get two entourages.
That kid is like one of his own. Oh, that could be my nephew. That could be he looks just like my sister's kid. He looks just like, such and such. All right, I'll give him a break, But when he looks completely different from me, he's a black kid that's not in my neighborhood. I'm not familiar with him, this, that, and the other. I see him as the other, and that's the thing. We have this mentality that this happens in no matter how you look at it, race, Democratic, Republican, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, fat people, skinny people, male, female. As long as we constantly see someone else as other instead of seeing them as us, we're always going to have these problems. Look at how Ice Cube had to argue with 4 black women that black women are black people. Like, what kind of argument is that? Like, why do I have to argue that point?
What kind of argument is that?
It was insane. They're like, well, I'm here for black women. It's for black people. Are you not black people? Like, what the fuck? Like, So it's just like, once we start blurring these lines of, us versus them, I think that's when we will actually have a true melting pot.
Do you think people revel in the idea in their identity so that they could perceive as I know this is going to sound messed up, that people revel in their identity so that it could be seen as a helpless group and detention. Because once you basically blur the lines and you basically treat everyone as an equal, now you don't have, which I believe there are people who have, ill intent of like pushing an agenda for their group. Do you think that blurring that lines eliminate those sort of ideologies of like, well, my group suffers through this and, things of that nature?
I think it would. I mean, the whole thing is I find that people either do one of two things. They either take the position of superiority or they take the position of inferiority. So it's either that I'm better than you or I'm there is no middle ground.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. It's like, there is no better than you. There is no inferior. At the end of the day, COVID don't give a fuck whether you're black, white, or Catholic, Muslim. It don't give a fuck. Yeah. It's everybody. It's equal opportunity, disease or sickness. The sun shines on everybody. Doesn't matter what part of the planet you are, what color you are, what race you are, whether you're rich or poor. These are all things that says you are not fucking special. You are a speck of a speck on a speck in the universe. Like calm the fuck down. There is no superior. There is no inferior. It's all, in our minds based on in society.
Yeah, ain't nobody trying to hear all that. We're just all humans.
And that's the thing. It's just like and that's what makes the idea of a melting pot almost in essence impossible, because I just feel like some people just want to stay within their identity rather than looking at the bigger scheme of things and see each other as one.
And that's the sad part.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
What? This is Kel's wrap up music. You raise your hand, Kel?
No. I mean, I don't know. I'm really just listening to what you guys are saying. I don't know that playing the victim. I mean, I guess playing the victim in certain situations works, but I don't know who would do it on purpose, man. So like,
Rachel. There's a lot of people who do it on purpose.
Yeah.
It's called cultural appropriation, man. They do it so they can play the victim, so they can get the perks of that which they're claiming the victim. Exactly. Most people who are victims aren't necessarily claiming victims, so they're not receiving the perks. We just go through life being the victim, getting victimized. We never actually say we're the victim. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, fellas. Well, those were the questions of the week. Good book, Kel. I can't wait to read the next 4 chapters.
Yep.